we see what used to be common human virtue in this poem. Or at least what should be common human virtue. The virtue of the everyman. I'm a working man and live by always labor, but I do the best I can to assist a needy neighbor. I don't have much. Everything I earn by the work of these hands. But you're welcome to anything I can spare. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and, which is more, you'll be a man, my son. This is how a father should speak to his son. This is what you should be raising. You are not raising a child, you are raising a man. That's why we have 65-year-old boys running around these days. Their fathers never read them this poem.
You can keep your head when you have plenty of reasons to not keep your head. If you can trust yourself when you have plenty of reasons to not, but make allowance for others that doubt you. If you can be patient, if you can accept being lied about, if you can accept being hated, if you can just carry on through life like a good, honest, simple man. That is a man with power. That is a man who has his stuff together. That is a man who can do anything. What are you drinking tonight, Ethan?
The finest ale in these great United States of America. New Holland Dragon's Milk Tales of Gold.
As previously stated, but not stated enough. And I'm not being sarcastic. It has not been stated enough.
It cannot be stated enough. Every time I have this, it's just sweet ambrosia past my lips, over the gums, and look out, stomach, there it comes. This is amazing. Everything that New Holland does with the Dragon's Milk line is amazing. There's just... It's got to be the bourbon barrels.
That, the milk sugar, I mean, it's...
That has to... Yeah. And the milk sugar. For this one, at least.
Yeah, I will
there's a Missouri brewery that brews a stout in bourbon barrels that I want to try. I've not tried it yet. But New Holland, being in Michigan, my stubborn Missourian streak... It's like, no, Missouri's is better. I gotta go find Missouri's is better.
As you should. You should go see what the...
As I should. But this is truly fantastic. And probably the best thing to come out of Michigan since they shut down Detroit.
I mean, I'm the same way as you know. Like, I've had Shell's cave-aged bourbon barrel-aged beer. I had one of those. It was at a poker night, and a priest brought a six-pack of those to it.
Is that a Minnesota beer?
Yes. Shell's is a brand out in New Ulm. And, yeah, that was amazingly good. Haven't found it since. Haven't really gone looking for it, but... Well, haven't looked for it at all. But if I could have more of that, I would. And yet, I am content with Dragon's Milk, and I am more than content with Tales of Gold. I will remember our reaction, the vibe of our reaction when we first had it together.
You and I drank it at the same time and then looked at each other and just went, whoa. Simultaneously.
Yep. It was darn
so,
good.
And that is, it's like that every single drink, every sip.
As it should.
It's like buttered gold. That's just how I'm going to say it. It's just like drinking buttered gold. But as an aside, the Pinckney Bend Distillery, which, if you live outside of Missouri or certain parts of Iowa or Illinois, too bad for you. You can't get it. That does have a whiskey where they take old barrels and then they give them to this brewery that ages the stout in them.
Mm-hmm.
Then they take it back and have a different whiskey that they age in it. So it is whiskey that is aged in barrels that have been used previously for whiskey and for stout. It's because they had the thought one day of like, well, what do we do about that? What do we do about these barrels? You know what? Let's try this.
Mm-hmm.
And apparently that is very good.
Yeah, I'd love to try that. That's, like you said, it's a fun experiment that they would have done, and yeah, you could imagine them just having fun with it. I like that. And you know I'm visiting, so...
Yeah. Although one of the guys that you're bringing with you can't have gluten.
Unfortunate for him. But more for me.
Although it is good whiskey, so he may just have a He may just deal with the trip to the bathroom later.
Yeah, every time that I've tried to get him to partake of, certain things, because I know that that's not an allergy anywhere close to the level of other things that he is allergic to.
Yeah.
He's always been hesitant to partake of the gluten, but maybe the whiskey will be good enough.
So he's not like the friend of ours that Genevieve and I were sitting at the table with once eating pizza, and as he was bringing a slice of pizza to his mouth, took that moment to say that he was both gluten and lactose intolerant.
Yeah, no, he's not
like,
that
dude,
type of
you're
person.
eating pizza. And he's like, I know, I'll just deal with it later. I like pizza, all right? So sue me.
If you can get away with it,
And then his wife is sitting right next to him. She's like, I tried. But you have told me what it is that you're having this evening, but if you would kindly show the folks.
Yeah, and
The
I
other
spoiled it
greatest
already
beer.
it is a great beer indeed. Guinness Extra Stout. Guinness is solid enough. Whether out of a can, out of a bottle, out of a tap, wherever you can get it, Guinness is awesome. But Guinness Extra Stout is even more awesome. Slightly higher on the ABV, darker, richer. Yeah, there's just more. It's intensified, as
It's
you might
Guinness,
expect.
only more so.
So if you like Guinness, you should like this. If you don't like dark beers, what are you doing with your life?
That is one of my go-to visiting somebody's house for the first time beers. Yeah, you go to somebody's house for the first time, you never show up empty-handed. That's quite rude. At least to some people it is. I don't find it rude if people show up to my house for the first time empty-handed, but I would find it rude for myself to not show up empty-handed. Mm-hmm. So Guinness Extra Stout is something that I have brought before, and my host was very, very happy that I brought Guinness Extra Stout with me.
Yeah, as you should be.
I said, hey, I brought the beer, and he said, oh boy, did you bring the beer.
It's not that expensive either. I mean, it's
No, not really. It's like,
more-
what, $12 for a six-pack?
Oh, if that. I mean, I would
11?
10, 11 maybe. So
It's actually not that different from just the regular Guinness Stout.
no, not at all.
It's definitely the price difference is definitely negligible. And to be honest, if you're going to choose between the two of them, the Extra Stout I would take probably every time.
Yeah, just get that.
Just because it has that richer flavor.
Yeah. I guess
Though
if you want richer, go with that. If you just want if you're at a bar and you just want the silkiness of a good Guinness, get a good Guinness.
Well, and if somebody offers you a regular Guinness, I'll never say no.
No, but
Sing hurrah to General Guinness of the Dublin Boozleers.
on from good beer to good poetry.
Last week we had some of the best poets that have ever put pen to paper. This week we have some more of the best poets who have ever put pen to paper. And some of the best examples of poetry.
Excellent indeed.
So one of our poems is by an author unknown. But the poem is so good I can't not talk about it.
Old Canadian author, right?
It's popular in Canada in the spoken word places. Usually where they have the hipsters with the bongos and the snapping. The places where they do slam poetry. But this particular work is very, very good. It's very, very old. First time I heard it, it was falsely attributed to Robert Burns in a show from the 1950s. And it was old then. So
It came from somewhere.
it is quite good. It's most popular in Canada. It probably originated in Canada. So something good does, in fact, come out of Canada, other than maple syrup.
Good to hear.
And I have also brought one of the greatest works of Rudyard Kipling, aside from the Jungle Book, because the Jungle Book is fantastic. And that's why we all love Rudyard Kipling. We would have no Jungle Book without him. So, his poetry, though, is where you see him. His poetry is where he shines the most.
All right.
But,
Yeah, the third poem we're going to read, that Rudyard Kipling one, that's an absolute banger, folks. So you don't get it at the beginning. You got to stick around a little bit. So
I mean, you could skip to it in theory. That's how YouTube works. But why would you? There's two fantastic poems before it.
don't do it. Even though I have chapters for this, don't do it. Even though I'm tempting you to do it, don't do it. But yeah, and then I have one by Sir Walter Scott and John Masefield, and I wouldn't be surprised if you've never heard of them, but I do believe they're great poems.
Sir Walter Scott, you're more likely to have heard of than John Masefield. Sir Walter Scott wrote Ivanhoe.
Well, I'm uneducated, so I don't know what Ivanhoe is.
I thought you were homeschooled.
Oh yeah, but we didn't cover that.
Okay, well, we're going to fix that at some point because I won't suffer alone. Ivanhoe is a 19th century novel about a knight in medieval England. Basically, it's sort of the quintessential chivalric tale of what it means to be a knight, what a knight is supposed to do, how a knight is supposed to act. And when I was in high school, I was assigned from my homeschool curriculum to write an essay. I forget how long it was, but any length was too long for this. I was assigned to write an essay on whether or not Ivanhoe married the right woman at the end. After all that chivalry and all that wonderfulness and all that great manly things, I was told as a 17-year-old boy to write about whether or not he married the right woman. I was like, I don't know, yeah. But anyway, that's a rant for another time. And there's another good friend of ours that we may have on for the podcast to listen to that rant because he had the same curriculum and he wrote the same essay. He did it much better than I did it. But it's one of my favorite bits that I do.
Okay.
So,
yeah, we're gonna have to sign up for that. So,
the interesting thing is that the yes answer is actually the opposite of probably what a lot of girls would actually write.
why?
Read the book. You'll know the story. Basically, there's these two women. There's this one that he has known that is another Saxon. It's a Saxon princess, effectively, that he's known for his entire life. And then there's this girl who is the daughter of a Jew. That is he's basically King John's accountant.
Okay.
I don't know any other way of putting it. He's called Isaac the Jew the entire time. So it's Lady Rowena and then Rebecca. Well, at one point, Sir Wilfrid of Ivanhoe saves Rebecca from a terrible fate. And this has led a great many people throughout the years to go, oh, the great tragedy of Ivanhoe choosing the wrong woman. He should have gone with the woman that he saved because that's so much more romantic. Yeah. No.
No, it's less.
There's nothing actually wrong with Rebecca. She is a wonderful girl. She's a great character. But from an objective standpoint, Rowena actually just is a better woman. Particularly for Ivanhoe. For one thing, she's also a Christian. So, there's that.
Yeah, there's that. Yeah.
She is also a Saxon, which is also a shared culture at a time when that is still very important, and Sir Wilfrid of Ivanhoe is effectively the last Saxon lord. Well, Sir Wilfrid of Ivanhoe, Sir Robin Hood, and then Lady Rowena's father are like among the last Saxon lords in England when the Normans have been taking over. Because you think Crips and Bloods is bad, wait till you hear about Norman versus Saxon in England. Oh boy. Like it got nasty.
And so, but he just needs to carry on the genealogy or whatever. Like,
that's not it. It's not for race reasons.
Yeah.
Their one actual encounter, they have multiple encounters, but their one actual meaningful encounter is like right after he saves her. And then they kind of go their separate ways. It does say that he married Rowena, but he never forgot Rebecca. I've never forgotten any girl I used to date. Does that mean I married the wrong woman? No. I absolutely married the right one, and I'm not just saying that because she's standing right there.
You could get on, a man or a woman could rip on Mr. Waxilium a little bit for not being over his first wife.
Yeah.
When he married Steris and began to fall in love with Steris. And there's something to that, but was he wrong to
Absolutely not.
fall in love with Steris anyway and marry her anyway? No. It is possible to
And that does go both ways. Like, you could maybe forgive him for not quite letting go of his first wife, especially when you learn the circumstances of his first wife's death.
yeah. I had one, yes.
And then the circumstances of him and Mary's marriage, like that, or him and Steris's marriage, excuse me. Goodness, I said the wrong thing.
Yeah. The one that we all wanted after the first book, and then...
It is the one that we wanted after the first book, but then Wax comes in with, like, the most rational and thought out and true reasoning. And we're all like, yeah, I can't argue with that.
Even so, I was pissed, but I became less pissed as time went on because, of course, I mean...
Will be an unpopular opinion, but that's kind of the difference between a man writing a romance and a woman writing a romance, because a woman would have almost certainly chosen Marasi.
Then the man does it, and the women get all upset about it, and it's like, okay, give it time. And yeah, by book 2 or 3, I mean, you're like, yeah, this is fine.
Then, like, say Wax had chosen Marasi, every woman reading it would have been like, oh, how romantic, I want to be Marasi so bad. But then all the memes start of Wax being really creepy for marrying a woman who's half his age, for one thing.
Would have been fine, it would have worked, but...
And all that, she's more of a student and more of a protege to him than anything else.
Oh, yeah.
Which he explains to her in great detail. But anyway, I'm going to get another drink because I ran out of beer and we had a good conversation. But I ran out of beer, but I'm going to get another drink so I can read poetry to something accompanied by something
Okay.
just as good as the poetry. All right, I have returned with 4 roses.
Excellent.
I've made this point about Dragon's Milk bourbon makes everything better. Well, here's the bourbon that makes everything better.
Excellent. Yes, we're back from an intermission. We went on a rant there for a bit. But on to the poetry. On to the poetry.
On to poetry with bourbon now. Because that beer was so good I drank it too fast.
Yeah, and I'm almost out of mine, so I may have to get something else myself.
This is an old Canadian spoken word poem called The Ragged Jacket. And you got to look a little bit for it. You got to know what you're looking for. Like, I'm finding this on some Canadian poetry website of a page that's advertising an event in 2007. So I'm on a page that's almost 20 years old, and this is the only place I've been able to find this poem in what I assume is its entirety. I've got 3 stanzas. I assume that's all of them. There might be more somewhere. Maybe some of you Canucks can tell me if there's supposed to be more. Anyway, this is The Ragged Jacket. Although I'm but a working man, I live by honest labor. I always do the best I can to assist a needy neighbor. Content and health are all my wealth, with honesty to back it. My motive pure, although I'm poor, I respect the ragged jacket. Let people say whate'er they may of broadcloth and who wore it. It's not the coat that makes the man, but the deeds through life that bear it. So always help a fellow man if assistance he should lack it. Do him all the good you can, though he wears a ragged jacket. All men were equally born at first, of this and every nation. The rich among the poor would be, but for health and education. And when we're laid beneath the sod, with 100 years to back it, who can tell which were the bones that wore the ragged jacket? May not be a long poem, but a poem doesn't have to be long to be powerful. This is very good. It's excellent. We see what used to be common human virtue in this poem. Or at least what should be common human virtue. The virtue of the everyman. I'm a working man and live by always labor, but I do the best I can to assist a needy neighbor. I don't have much. Everything I earn by the work of these hands. But you're welcome to anything I can spare. It's like our Lord's parable of who has given more, these wealthy men that have given out of their fortune, or the poor widow who gave but 2 pennies because that's all she could spare. And this is something that a lot of people have pointed out, I definitely won't be the first, but this is a conversation I've had with friends before. Sometimes the most generous people are the poorest people you know. Now, at some point on the curve, it goes the other way where there are very, very poor people who are unbelievably selfish. But the working class who's living paycheck to paycheck, that population has the highest percentage of the classes of people who, if you come to them with a problem, will throw down whatever it is that they're doing and say, now what can I do for you and how can I help you? They may be foul-mouthed. They may be rude, uncouth, uncultured, but they will help those close to them. And they will crawl on their hands and knees through broken glass to hell and back to do it if they have to. Because many of them actually know what matters. And they respect the ragged jacket. There's something that my dad taught me when I was young. My dad worked for the transportation department and the bridge division for 30 years. And a couple times a year he'd have to go on bridge inspections. Now, there's a crew working on a bridge that he's designed, or working on repairs on a bridge that he designed. And he'd go and inspect and make sure that they're following the plans and make sure that the plans that he wrote were correct and that the information he got was right. And then go back and file a report. Basically what you would expect an inspection, a construction type inspection to be. I remember once my dad was leaving for this bridge inspection, and he's dressed, for the most part, business casual. He's got button-down shirt and some good blue jeans on. And then he sits down and he puts on these ratty steel-toed work boots. I said, Dad, why don't you wear your good boots or your good shoes? And then he finished tying his boots and he looked up at me and he said, because a workman doesn't listen to a man unless he's wearing steel toes. Nobody on that bridge crew is going to listen to a guy in a clean shirt. It's the same thing with factories. It's the same thing with a construction site. Any place where the workmen wear steel-toed boots, anybody comes on that site to tell them what to do, the first thing they look at is your feet. And your boots will tell them exactly how long you've worked. In the case of this poem, I respect the ragged jacket. One poor man knows another. I understand that anecdote is a little bit out of context, but there did seem to be a unity between them.
It might be harder to see these days, but it still is a thing.
And the second stanza of let people say whatever they may of broadcloth and who wore it. Again, I don't have a lot to add. Clothes do not make the man, despite what anybody told you. It is his actions and what he does, and how he lives his life. Now, these days we have a considerable number of fashions. Most of them are bad. And the poor of today are not exactly like the poor of the time when this poem was written. But the meaning still holds true. If you think that I'm just going to up and give you respect because you got a fancy suit, or you live in a great big house with more rooms than you can count, or would care to use, or you've got this many companies, or this much in stock and bond, well, you got another thing coming. Because I have the time for people who have time for others, rather than companies. Now, that may occasionally be true of good, wealthy men, but most of the time, do him all the good you can, though he wears a ragged jacket. It is not the coat that makes a man, but the deeds through life that bear it. Doesn't tell me how good you are, just because you're wearing fancy clothes. Doesn't necessarily tell me how bad you are, either. I have to judge you by your actions. I am briefly reminded of something that a certain controversial podcaster said when asked about opinions of his that are viewed as racist and anti-Semitic. And then he said, well, I have really good friends that are black and Jewish, so just judge me by the company that I keep. No. I will judge you by your actions. Not by your clothes, not by your fancy suit, not by your nice studio. I judge you by your words and by your deeds. What you do and say is what actually matters. What you do and say is what will get you either through the pearly gates or into the fires of hell. That ultimately is what it is. Not to say that, you just have to be a good person No. Well, that's not really it either. Because that's Pelagianism, and that's a story for another time. The long and the short of it being, clothes do not make the man. And you should always help anybody that needs help. Doesn't matter who he is.
It's a good way of summing it up. How do we get there, though? Right? This might be the hardest poem for me to react to because it's the only one I don't have printed off. But how do we get to the point where we can all be like that man? Because most of us, I think, live comfortable enough lives. Maybe we're generous, maybe we're not, but we're definitely not poor, per se. Maybe we are. You know? But even if we're living paycheck to paycheck, or we're only saving so much money, we probably, at least here in America, have pretty comfortable lives, all things considered. We have so many things around us, we have so many things we can go do, so many things we can consume, so much knowledge we can learn, so many things with which to fill our time. You know, and maybe on top of that, you're actually rich, or actually running a company, and you have even more freedom in that regard, and more things you can do, and more things to devote your attention to. How, in the midst of that, do you maintain the attitude of a humble man, of a humble worker, who recognizes that his fellow men around him are the exact same as him, and that their bones are indistinguishable from his once they're dead and gone?
You got a little bit ahead of me. I haven't gone through the... I haven't reacted to the last stanza yet, but...
My apologies, then. I thought you were done. So.
With that in mind, I'll go ahead and just go through it again, because that last stanza, I think, really is... If you could only take one stanza, take the last. Because it is where the true meat and meaning of this poem actually is. That all men were equally born at first of this and every nation. The rich among the poor would be but for health and education. And when we laid beneath the sod with 100 years to back it, who can tell which were the bones that wore the ragged jacket? Our founding fathers wrote in the Declaration of Independence that all men are created equal. And that is true. All men are created equal. They don't stay that way. You know, that sentiment sometimes gets taken as an excuse for, oh, well, we really shouldn't be putting too many people in prison. Because, you know, we're all equal. We're all created equal. No. You may be created equal, but you don't stay that way. And like the poem says, like the man said, the rich among the poor would be but for health and education. You are where you are, and you were born to whom you were born, by the dictates of Providence alone. That's what that means. There is no difference between one child in the womb and another. The womb is the same, and the wealthy infant knows no difference from the poor infant, except maybe a temperature. The poor infant may be cold, and may have to go a little hungry every now and again. But the only difference between a rich man and a poor man, the only fundamental difference, again, is health and education. And even now, education doesn't mean crap. It don't mean a thing. But when we're laid beneath the sod with 100 years to back it, who can tell which were the bones that wore the ragged jacket? You start the same, and you end the same. What's in between is inconsequential. You start as a baby, and you end as a dead man. Either way, who cares what your tombstone looks like? What you should be concerned about is your soul, which is why you help the man who wears a ragged jacket. There's another old song. It's nice to be nice to your neighbor. It costs nothing, though it's well worth the price. When Judgment Day comes rolling around, buddy, you'll be set, because it's nice, oh, so nice to be nice. Which he doesn't just necessarily mean smile and be happy all the time to everybody, but sometimes that is all you can do. I would reference our episode that we did on almsgiving a while back for Advent. Was it in Advent? Maybe it was in October. I don't know. I'd go and reference that, because we had some good things to say. I don't remember all of them, but I remember that at least one thing I said was pretty good.
The internet remembers, so that's all that matters.
That's a scary thought.
Yeah, it does. Also, again, my apologies. I would not have interrupted if I had thought you were done. So.
Oh, no, that's fine. What you said was perfectly good.
I like it. And what you said was more than perfectly good. It was quite brilliant. And as we both said, it's a good reminder for all of us, right? At some point you may go through life and you may realize how I envy the poor. And I'm not saying that we should all want to be poor, but they have something that we don't, right? They don't have a ton. And so all they have is their fellow man. And when all you have is your fellow man, you're going to spend a lot more time caring for your fellow man. Dropping whatever and crawling over glass to hell and back, like you said. And respecting the ragged jacket. When you're not poor, you have a lot of other things to devote your time and your energy towards and your mind space towards. And you don't have to be rich. You just have to be an ordinary schmuck like myself. To be in that position. I got 1,000 other things to think about other than the people around me. Which is a horrible thing to say, and yet it's the lived experience of practically everybody out there who's like me. So how can we all, myself included, think more about that every day and just kind of rein that in and pass through the eye of a needle and enter the kingdom of heaven? And I think we've talked about a lot of answers to that in our previous podcast episodes, one of which is the almsgiving one. But to sum it all up, focus on what matters most. You know? What matters is not your phone video game or your crypto or your anything else. Those things are good insofar as they serve you and your fellow man. Right? Same goes for your YouTube and your Facebook feeds, if you're still on Facebook. You know? Or pick any of the 100 other distractions you have or the good hobbies you have. These things are only good so far as they serve yourself and your fellow man. And by serving, we mean make you better and make them better. It's a real challenge, but it's not one you get to opt out of, except at your own peril. It's part of life, so deal with it. And I'll close my thoughts on this poem by saying there's an attitude of a good man as a humble mountain that I think is present in this poem. And I think it's present in more or less the rest of the poems we're going to talk about this evening as well. That's a recurring theme that I'll come back to.
It's the difference between the Appalachians and the Rockies. The Rockies have all their splendid grandeur and their height and their breadth, but the Appalachians are old. The Appalachians are what wear the ragged jacket.
And there is a beauty there that the Rockies do not have and will not have.
Mm-hmm.
Except by growing old.
Maybe if you can ask them in 4.5 million years, maybe they'll have the same experience.
Don't get there. Maybe.
Well, I understand that you have something from Sir Walter Scott.
I do. A different type of poem, but also a good one about manhood and honor and patriotism. And I'll shut up and let him talk for a bit. This is Breathes There the Man, from the Lay of the Last Minstrel, by Sir Walter Scott. Breathes there the man, with soul so dead, who never to himself hath said, This is my own, my native land, whose heart hath ne'er within him burned, as home his footsteps he hath turned, from wandering on a foreign strand. If such there breathe, go, mark him well, for him no minstrel raptures swell. High though his titles, proud his name, boundless his wealth as wish can claim, despite those titles, power, and pelf, the wretch, concentred all in self, living shall forfeit fair renown, and doubly dying shall go down to the vile dust from whence he sprung, unwept, unhonored, and unsung. So we ought to have pride in our country. And I think you could extend the meaning, well, I know you can extend the meaning of this poem to even things beyond your country in a right way. But we ought to love our country. And something is missing from us if we do not love our country or do not love the things that we ought to love, that are correct for us to love. Hence, breathes there the man with soul so dead. So his soul has died, or at least a part of it has died, because there is a place there for love of country. even for us localist folks on this, or quasi-localist folks, or whatever we are on this podcast. No, there's a place for your native country. Like, that is something you should love and should have pride in. And if you do not, that part of your soul does die, because what else is going to fill it? Doom scrolling? He gets to some of the things that can fill it, and, well, they're not filling. Whose heart has ne'er within him burned, as home his footsteps he hath turned, from wandering on a foreign strand. I don't care how cool Paris is. I don't care how cool Rome is. I don't care how cool Scotland is. I'd really like to go there. I don't care how cool the Holy Land is. And those places are all beautiful and cool, and like, we should go visit them. Closer to home, I might think some other states are really cool. I might even think that they have advantages that mine doesn't have. Like Tennessee. Get taxed a lot less in Tennessee than you do in Minnesota. I don't care. If I went there and I really reveled in the fact that they were great and enjoyed, the great whiskey they have, I should come back to Minnesota and I should still have pride, because Minnesota is mine. It is my state.
And Missouri, and I think the same of Missouri.
Exactly.
And I'm grateful to my wife for making it hers.
Exactly. But just to return to this theme that, like, if all you did was for yourself, what a waste of life it would be.
Mm-hmm.
Your heart should burn within you. Your heart should be alive within you. Something's missing if it's not that. With regards to patriotism, or even the other things you're supposed to love, like family. And we're warned that for such people as don't do this, no minstrel raptures swell, so you're not sung of. You're not remembered. You were not worth remembering. You were not worth weeping for, you were not worth honoring, and you were not worth singing for. Because we only do that for the people that we love, and we only love the people that know how to love. So yeah, so you had your man cave. You had your 401k. You had your very nice golf outings. I'm sure friends that like to golf with you. You had your activities. You had your sports on Sundays. You went to church because that was your job, right? Or maybe not your job. I mean, like, it's good. You maybe like it for more reasons, which is good, very good. But how much did you care about your fellow man? Did you play with your kids when they came to you to play and asked you, Daddy, can you play this with us? Were you kind to your fellow workers and to the people you're called to serve? And more to the point of the poem, did you care about your country? I'm broadening this out from patriotism, but I can't not include that. Did you care about your country? Did you wish the best for those in power? Did you pray for those who had been given the responsibility to lead? Were you ready to give your life for your community and your country if the time called for it in a just fashion? In a word, did you care? Or was it just a thing that was supposed to serve you, and all you wanted it to do was serve you and serve you and serve you and subsidize this and that? And yeah, that was the only purpose it had. You didn't care. What type of life would that be? A life not lived. A life without a soul, or with a soul that does not burn. Living shall forfeit fair renown, and doubly dying shall go down to the vile dust from whence he sprung, unwept, unhonored, and unsung. I think all men want to be sung of. I think all men want their families to be proud of them, their communities to be proud of them. How do you get that? You don't get it by making all the money in the world and having the greatest house. You don't get it because of all your accomplishments, even if those accomplishments did benefit humanity. Not that those don't count for anything. They do. You get it by respecting the ragged jacket, as we talked about in our last poem. You get it by caring for your fellow neighbor and knowing and respecting them as such. And they in turn will respect you. And they in turn will sing for you. And they will honor you. And they will weep for you. And your country will do the same. Again, more to the point of the poem. So in short, all of this is a great way of saying, in giving we receive. Ask not what your country can do for you. Ask what you can do for your country. One of the few times I'll quote a Democrat.
One of the only good Democrats.
That's what I got on that one. Be a good patriot. Be a good member of your state, of your city, of your country. Be a good member of your family. Be a good husband. Be a good father. Be a good wife. Be a good mother. And I will add some stuff here real quick. some objections on the national side of this, right? Someone might say, I don't want to be proud of my country because my country's done a bunch of horrible things, or they just are doing things that I morally disagree with, whether they're horrible or not. I mean, they probably are if you think that, but or at least you think they are, but I can't bring myself to love that entity. I just suffer through it, and I'm living through it, but yeah, I don't love him. Well, if your father was doing horrible things, would you disown him as your father? There might be impediments to the love you have for him. You know, there might be things that he has to say sorry for, right? But would you stop loving him? Even if you would, I would hope that you'd recognize you're in the wrong for ceasing to love him, right? And if you were a father and your son was, well, not being the wisest individual in the world, let's just say he's the prodigal son, but 10x'd for the sake of argument, would you stop loving him? Even if you were disappointed in him? Even if you were really sad, even if you were like, I raised you, how could you do that? Even if you suffered through all of the insecurity of like, wait, I cannot have that associated with me. How did I cause that? No, you just wouldn't care, or you wouldn't let those thoughts in your mind or you deal with them because he's your son and you still love him. There's no other option. So don't disown your country. Try and make it better. Pray for your country. Pray for its leaders. And granted, you still have a responsibility to yourself and your family and trying to do what God wants of you. And maybe that means that all things considered, the right thing to do is move, right? Because there is a better opportunity elsewhere. America kind of became America because of that whole thing, you know?
Yeah.
Like, maybe I did want to move to Tennessee for some reason because taxes. There's nothing to that, you know? Maybe there's a better political environment down there or something. There is a benefit to that, so I could go do that. And we're not tied down to any one place because this life is a pilgrimage anyway. But even then, I still can have love for the state where I was born. The place I was born. I should still honor and respect it, and will always have a place in my heart if I ever were to do that. And by the way, I'm not probably going to be doing that. But if I ever were, I still would have a place in my heart for Minnesota. And I would adopt Tennessee as my own in this case, and I would love it, and it would be mine.
I see you pointedly ignoring Missouri as a potential example of states that charge you way less in income tax.
If I wanted to be pointed about making an example of moving to a state because of the greater benefits, I would simply say that you should move to Minnesota so you can be closer to all the friends that care about you.
Or I can move to North Dakota so I can be both a little bit closer to all the friends that care about me and also pay zero income tax to the state.
That is fair. But no, I didn't go there until you prompted it. Anyway, another good way of summing all this up is to quote Father Gregory Pine on a Pine Street Aquinas episode. I love America because America's mine. And that applies to your state, that applies to your community, that applies to your family, that applies to all the things that you are supposed to love in life. You love them because they're yours, because they are gifts that have been given to you. Even if through human free will they've screwed it up in a variety of ways, guess what? You've done the same. They're yours. They're yours to love.
We are not called to despise anyone or anything.
So get on with the loving.
So I will say, well, as you were reading that, I drew some different but still similar points from it. For one thing, the man that does is the man who has the song sung of him, not the man who paid for the doing. Does history overall remember who the head of NASA was when Neil Armstrong stepped off the lander? No. Fourth graders are not taught that. Fourth graders are taught Neil Armstrong stepped off the Apollo lander and said, one small step for man, one giant leap for mankind. There are many who are unsung, but Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin and that other guy whose name I forget.
Sam.
Because he was the third guy on the moon. It's one thing to be the first, it's one thing to be the second. Something entirely different to be the third guy on the moon. They're the ones who had the courage to step up and say, I will go to the moon. I will put my life on the line for this mission, so we can plant my nation's flag in space. Courage is what gets songs sung of you, even if it is only by your son. You are remembered for courage and for virtue. At least you should be. There are negative reasons to be remembered, but you only have songs sung of you if you were a man of courage or virtue. They may only be sung by your children, and your grandchildren may completely forget you, but the songs will still be sung.
Yeah, well said. So, and it's a good point, because the singing ultimately doesn't matter. The honor, the weeping, it ultimately doesn't matter. What ultimately matters is, does your heart burn within you as it ought to? Is your soul alive as it ought to be? So it is good that the poem starts there.
And are your actions done out of love? Horatio stood at the bridge because he loved Rome, and he fought to protect it. And now we have a great and very, very long poem about him. Don Juan of Austria went to Lepanto because he loved his faith and he loved Christendom, and he would fight and die protecting it. And now we have one of the greatest poems ever written about him, about Don Juan of Austria riding to the sea. But to your point about fathers and sons, I have something to add.
Just a wee something.
Just a wee something. It's definitely not one of the best poems just ever written. My edition from Rudyard Kipling.
Your edition?
One of the best... Well, the poem that I've brought. One of the best writers that people always forget about. I feel like you mentioned Rudyard Kipling and everybody goes, oh yeah, that guy.
Sounds fair.
Oh yeah, he existed. Oh yeah, he was a thing. Oh yeah, I like the Jungle Book. Yet he wrote some of the wisest and best verses that have ever been put on a page. So this is probably his greatest poem, and one that I will read to my sons as soon as they're old enough to comprehend. This is If. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you, if you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too, if you can wait and not be tired by waiting, or being lied about, don't deal in lies, or being hated, don't give way to hating, and yet don't look too good nor talk too wise. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim, if you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, if you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you give your life to broken and stoop to build 'em up with worn-out tools, if you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings and never breathe a word about your loss, if you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings nor lose the common touch, if neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count you, but none too much, if you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and, which is more, you'll be a man, my son. I don't know that I have to say too much, because I feel like if I go in depth for this, I will go the entire length of an episode, because that's just how good and how wonderful this poem is. This is how a father should speak to his son. This is what you should be raising. You are not raising a child, you are raising a man. You think of a farmer at springtime. You don't go up to him and say, hey, how are those seedlings that you plan to raise? No, you raise crops. And if I have my druthers, my sons will grow into fine crop of man. I'm not raising boys, I'm raising men. That's the difference. That's what we lost. We thought we were raising boys. So that's what they stayed as, boys. That's why we have 65-year-old boys running around these days. Their fathers never read them this poem. If you can keep your head when all about you are losing theirs and blaming it on you. Now, who does that? Does that sound familiar? everybody's going insane and blaming somebody in particular for driving them insane. If you can trust yourself when all men doubt you, but make allowance for their doubting too. If you can say, nobody believes me, but I believe that I'm right. But I can see why they don't believe me too. That's justice and fairness. Being lied about, don't deal in lies. Being hated, don't give way to hate. Wait and not be tied by waiting. Don't look good, nor talk too wise. Humility. So what if somebody else lies about you? That's no reason for you to go and lie about them in return. So what if you're hated? You are called to love. Love your neighbor as you love yourself. As Christ himself said, to love one another as I have loved you. And one another doesn't just mean fellow Christians. That means everyone. You are called to love your enemies and never despise. Now these next two lines are two of my favorites. The last line of a poem is usually the best one, but these are ones that stood out to me. If you can dream and not make dreams your master, if you can think and not make thoughts your aim. There is nothing wrong with being a dreamer, as long as you remember where the ground is, and you keep your feet on it. Your head can be in the clouds as long as your feet are on the ground. Think, but don't make thoughts your aim. Don't think for the sake of thinking. And remember that if you dream, your dreams will fall short. If you can meet with triumph and disaster and treat those two impostors just the same, the best and the worst should be treated the same, because they are the most uncommon occurrences. Triumph and disaster. That's how bell curves work. Triumph and disaster. They're the most uncommon, and at the same time are the least likely to have actually be your responsibility. For both triumph and disaster, it is less likely for that to be your fault or your credit. A man's triumph is usually due to somebody else, if at the very least the will of God. And a man's disaster, usually not his fault, and usually only allowed by the permission of God, for a specific reason. So all happens as God wills, active or permissive will. That's what that line means, what those lines mean. Keep them in mind. Keep them together. Triumph and disaster are impostors of truth, because everything else is just life. If you can bear to hear the truth you've spoken, twisted by knaves to make a trap for fools, or watch the things you gave your life to broken and stoop to build them up with worn-out tools. It doesn't matter how good of a man you are, if you have enough eyes on you, somebody will find fault with you. And somebody will take your words out of context and twist them. This is a very, very popular thing to do nowadays. It actually has been for quite some time. Even if what you say is true, you can speak for 10 minutes and speak nothing but the truth, but somebody takes the middle 2 minutes out of it, very cleverly places that ellipse, those ellipses, that are supposed to be there to shorten the quote, make it more convenient, or somebody very conveniently places a cut in the television recording. I don't know about you, but every time I see one of those, the first thought in my head is, well, I want to know what he said there. I want to know what got cut out. I really do. Because you may have cut out something very, very important. And if you did that, my assumption is you did it deliberately, if you were doing it correctly. You may have cut out the very answer to the question you have about what was said. Or you may have cut out that one line that is the proof that the rest of it does not mean what you think it means.
If I may quickly interject to ask a question.
Yes.
What do you mean by most disaster is not man's fault? What do you mean by disaster?
If your company falls to ruin, a lot of times mismanagement is a thing, but it's not 100% your fault. Disaster being the opposite of triumph. If two armies meet on a battlefield, the one that loses, even if it loses very, very badly, is not necessarily because their commander was an idiot. It's because the other commander was better. And you have to treat your victory just the same. Don Juan of Austria only won at Lepanto because the wind changed. And the wind changed because God said it would change. And that is something that he carried home with him. That is the most broad example I can think of. That was a disaster for the Ottomans, of a battle that was going very well for them from the start. But then the wind changed, and they found themselves fleeing across the Mediterranean, hoping beyond a hope that they could outrun the Holy League ships and get back to the safety of Persia.
I drink to it, but I am out of drink.
I am too. That was not necessarily their fault. It was a change in the wind. That is what I mean by disaster. When we say disaster strikes, it's something that comes from outside, from elsewhere, something that could not have been thought of. An earthquake, a tornado, a volcano eruption, a hurricane, something that you didn't necessarily prepare for. That's what I mean by disaster. And I believe that's what Kipling means by disaster as well.
Okay. I thank you for that. I understand.
And triumph is very similar. Because actual triumph only really happens when everything possible aligns up in just the right way. All the circumstances are right. And you don't have control over every circumstance.
No, it reminds me of, I believe this was Nick Saban when he was coaching Alabama. Had something where basically outcomes don't matter. And if outcomes don't matter, then all you can do is your best. Right? And it's not that outcomes don't matter at all. Like, as a Catholic, I want to get to heaven. That outcome matters very much.
Yes. And that one is on you.
Yeah. Well, and even if I can't get there without God's grace, like, he wants my help. And so the terms of engagement are laid out pretty clearly, and I got my things I need to do, and I got my things I need to not do, and I have a standing to maintain. But how I'm going to get there is by focusing on that end goal and also focusing on the ins and outs of every day, right? Eyes up on, look at him, and focus on what matters most. So, and along the way, if a disaster strikes, if I become a mini version of Job all of a sudden, then the Lord giveth and the Lord taketh away, blessed be the name of the Lord. Which ties into later lines in this amazing poem, and I'll shut up now.
One of which we will read now. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose it, and start again at your beginnings, and never breathe a word about your loss. Be detached, because material things pass away. Don't whine and complain that you bet on the wrong horse. Don't cry foul because you put down the wrong wager, because you make that risk every time you place a wager. Never bet on a sure thing, because there is no such thing. Never breathe a word about your loss. I don't care how much it is. Could be $2, it could be $2 million that you put on that horse. Whatever it is you lose it and go, c'est la vie. Such is life. If you can force your heart and nerve and sinew to serve your turn long after they are gone, and so hold on when there is nothing in you except the will which says to them, hold on. When you have no strength but the strength of your own will. When you have been fighting a battle for hours, and you may stand upon a mound of defeated foes, and every muscle in your body wants to give out, but your will forces them to continue. Because it has to. Because that is right. When you carry a cross, and the weight of it crushes you to the ground, but your will forces you to stand. Not one, not two, but 3 times. And even when your executioner forces a man from the crowd to carry it for you, and the weight of the knowledge of what will happen to you still pushes you to the ground, you stand, and you do what must be done.
Yep.
If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue, or walk with kings, nor lose the common touch. If neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count you, but none too much. If you can talk with crowds and keep your virtue. I like that line. It's worded a very specific way. I don't know if you know this, but the average person has a pretty foul mouth. And a lot of dirty thoughts go around through the crowds these days. But it is your responsibility not to let that affect you. And that's what it is to go out into the world. Be in the world and not of the world. You should be able to see depravity. You should be able to see something terrible and not let it affect you. As yes, you should be guarding your eyes, but you cannot guard your eyes all the time. you should have a wall around your heart too, and around your soul and your mind. Because not everything is solved by just don't look.
True.
Because sometimes you can't help it. You are the master of your mind and will, and of your heart. You are the one who controls how your mind and will and heart react to what it is that you're seeing. So talk with crowds and keep your virtue. Walk with kings nor lose the common touch. Be all things to all people. That really is actually what that means. You can go out to the pub and be one of the boys, and the very next day you can sit with the king and advise him in the ruling of a nation. And you are still you. You can be one of the boys and not let their vices affect you, and have the ear of the king and not feel the need to rub it in the faces of everybody you know. When you're with one side, if you work closely with the king, the common man should be able to meet you and not know it, and vice versa. If you spend time among the common man, the king should be able to meet you and not tell, because you are all things to all people. That doesn't mean you're fake, or you're false, or you're inconsistent. That actually means you are more true, because who you are will fit no matter where you are, and you don't try to force your environment to fit you. If neither foes nor loving friends can hurt you, if all men count with you, but none too much. Your enemies will actively try to hurt you, but nobody can hurt you as badly as your friends. Sometimes by accident, sometimes deliberately, because you got into an argument, and tempers were lost, and things were said that shouldn't have been. If all men count with you, but none too much. If you have the respect of a great many, but not too much respect. They think of you as a good man, but not a god. If you can fill the unforgiving minute with 60 seconds worth of distance run. You don't stop for anything. You keep going. Onward and upward. Further up and further in. Once more unto the breach once more, and plug up the hole with our English dead. Yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you'll be a man, my son. This is an ode to manhood, and it is the most accurate and true list of the human virtues of manhood that I have ever seen. Because it should go without saying that a man should always kneel before God and God before anyone else. You are not subject only to God, but you are subject to him first, even before your king. That's the one thing this poem does not mention. But that is a supernatural thing. As far as the human virtues are concerned, I don't think it missed a single one. And it does sort of remind me, I mention this a lot, I watch a lot of old television shows. There's an episode of the Danny Thomas Show, which is one of my favorite, and I reference it frequently because there's a lot of very good things in it, in which Danny looks at his son, who has just said something far beyond his years, and basically has just revealed a plan to do something that you wouldn't expect a 10-year-old boy to think of doing. He looks at his son and he puts his hand on his son's shoulders and he says, "I just realized what you're going to be when you grow up." And the son says, "What?" And Danny says, "A man. You were a man before everything else. Act like one." And I just read the instruction manual.
It's a darn good one. It's a darn good one.
And I basically just spent all that time explaining it. I have nothing to add. It's complete. It's pretty comprehensive.
I don't have much to add either, but if I was, I'd look first at part of the third stanza. If you can make one heap of all your winnings and risk it on one turn of pitch and toss, and lose and start again at your beginnings. You know, I'm not saying gambling's a good thing, but what can that mean? I think love is a great example. There's something to be said for when you step into a relationship. When you step into the act of loving somebody, you take on a risk. And that risk is, well, it's multiple risks, but they could reject you. You could really mess things up. They could really mess things up. Something horrible could happen, right? Mm-hmm. Somehow this could not work out. Whether you're in a stage of a relationship where you can break things off, or whether you're past that point and you're married, and there is no breaking it off. something catastrophic may go wrong. Or just one of you dies, right? If you can lose it and still say it was worth it, and start again, onward and upward once more unto the breach, then you understand what love is. It was still worth doing. It was still worth doing. Because it's love. It is the highest aim. And then you had a thought.
Just that love, actual love, which is the wishing the good for another, and understanding that that might not be you.
Or that against all your insecurities, it is you, like Vin in Mistborn. But
and Ellen, too. He was not free of those.
True, he wasn't. On the fourth stanza, if you can do all these things, yours is the earth and everything that's in it, and which is more, you're a man, my son. Power, freedom, and discipline, right? Or the freedom gained from discipline. You know, the freedom that I could have more of if I didn't doom scroll as much and actually took my own stupid advice. Because yes, I'm still dumb. You know? And the same goes for many men, right? If we slow down and we focus on what matters most, then we can do whatever we can do so many more things with that which matters most. But isn't that kind of the ultimate aim? And then back to the first stanza. And I'm not going to read it. I'm not going to read the earlier stuff again, but this is where I got the concept of the humble mountain, or rather, I was reminded of it. I have wanted in the past to be a man like a mountain, in the sense that I can have all abuse thrown at me and not flinch, and not care, and not need to react except insofar as is good. And what this poem describes is that man, is that humble mountain of a man, is that Appalachian mountain man. If you can keep your head when you have plenty of reasons to not keep your head, if you can trust yourself when you have plenty of reasons to not, but make allowance for others that doubt you, if you can be patient, if you can accept being lied about, if you can accept being hated, if you can just carry on through life like a good, honest, simple man, that is a man with power. That is a man who has his stuff together. That is a man who can do anything, because he, more than anybody else, knows who he is. Well, apart from God. He knows who he is. He knows who he was created to be. Somebody hates you, who cares? Somebody made fun of you, who cares? Somebody lied about you. All right, well, I guess I have to accept that. And so I shall accept it. You could take that for stoicism. I don't think stoicism is all that. It's just humility. It's just simple humility.
If I may draw us back at the very end to that final line, yours is the earth and everything that's in it. Like the man said, blessed are the meek and humble of heart, for they will inherit the earth. This is meekness, and not the cringing cowardice that people try to pass off as being meekness, and as an excuse for not actually being meek. This is meekness, this poem. And meekness is true strength.
Agreed. Yeah, this life... I'll let you finish.
No, I didn't really have anything else, just that meekness is true strength. When men can lie about you and you can take it. Does it really matter? People are lying about you. The people that really do know you know better. And aren't they the only ones that really matter? Anyway. Well, like you say something on social media, or say you have a social media following, and then people start twisting your words. Then your wife is just going to believe what they say and leave you? That would never happen to my wife, because she knows me. And if somebody twisted my words to try to say what I didn't mean, she'd be able to hear that and go, well, that doesn't sound right. How about I actually ask him what he said? Which is something else we've all forgotten how to, is to find what was actually said. But that's a conversation for another time. So practice true meekness, which, again, is fully illustrated in this poem. Meekness and humility of heart. Because Rudyard Kipling could not write a poem without referencing scripture in some way, and there it is. Yours is the earth and everything in it that is in it. Blessed are the meek and humble of heart, for they shall inherit the earth.
Our Lord being right yet again, as he tends to be.
Playing the long game. We will inherit the earth. It's not ours now, but it doesn't have to be ours now. It will be later. Just give it time. That, my friends, is the only sure thing. And you can bet on it.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I believe we have one more poem.
We do. But that point about meekness, the point about the strength of the man represented in Rudyard Kipling's poem. Yeah, it's not stoic. It's not lazy. You don't get to have the attitude towards people lying about you or towards all the situations that require you to have patience by simply sitting back and chilling out. It requires a lot of you. And it's going to be chaotic. Even though the end goal is simplicity and peace and humility and being a man in all those regards, it's nothing short of an adventure to get there. And so we should embrace it as such. And the spirit of that adventure is what is represented in this last poem. Sea Fever by John Masefield. I must go down to the seas again, to the lonely sea and sky. And all I ask is a tall ship and a star to steer her by. And the wheels kick and the wind's song and the white sail shaking. And a grey mist on the sea's face. And a grey dawn breaking. I must go down to the seas again, for the call of the running tide is a wild call and a clear call that may not be denied. And all I ask is a windy day with the white clouds flying, and the flung spray and the blown spume, and the seagulls crying. I must go down to the seas again, to the vagrant gypsy life, to the gull's way and the whale's way, where the wind's wet like a whetted knife. And all I ask is a merry yarn from a laughing fellow rover, and a quiet sleep and a sweet dream, and the long trick's over. I think all men hearing that can appreciate the spirit of that poem, even if you're a bit of a landlubber like myself.
Every man has some desire for the sea.
It does. That's why Tolkien was wise to write Lord of the Rings the way he did. Oh wait, of course he was.
Because he was just always right about everything.
Yeah. But this voyage on the sea that this man wants to go on is his life, right? It is the adventure of life. Many men don't want to do that. Many men don't know how to do that. They're told, show up and do your homework, because it's good to do your homework. And go to college, because it's good to go to college. And, find somebody, because it's good to find somebody, and you'd like a warm body in the bed next to you. And make sure you're contributing to your 401k, and go work a job, and have a nice house, and have a couple kids, and have the man cave, have your retirement, then I guess that'll be that. Not saying that's a horrible life. And I'm not saying that's a life without its challenges. But the mode in which many people want that, or many people end up with it, is a kind of coasting, a kind of laid backness, a kind of chilling out, a kind of
lukewarm is a good word.
Lukewarm is a good word. A kind of only doing what I need to do because I guess that's all there is to do, without trying to really better themselves. And when you see those types of people in life, it's sad. There's people that I can think of one person in particular in my life who, I respect him in a number of ways, but I've seen glimpses into his marriage, and I don't know the whole story there and how his marriage really is, but what I have observed is wow, that's sad.
I've known many of those.
There's barely anything there. Or there ain't much, right? Compared to what I'd like for myself. But no, what I should ask for life is a home, and a life itself, and guidance along the way. And so I have the seas, and I have the ship, and I have a star to steer her by. And I have the air of adventure along the way. And it's not the type of adventure that is just... It's not a cruise ship. It's a windy day with the white clouds flying, and the flung spray, and the brown spume, and the seagulls crying. No, there's a rush to it. There's an excitement to it. There's even a danger to it. Because there are consequences for me screwing up that I can no longer hide from because I'm no longer being conformist and lukewarm.
And there are unforeseen circumstances.
Yes. Do I dare face them? What other choice do I have? For the call of the running tide is a wild call, and a clear call that may not be denied. It's not some little nice voice in my head saying, yeah, that looks cool. No, it's wild. As all truly awesome things are, they're pretty darn wild. And it's clear. It's not vague, it's not an option. It is the only thing that is fit for me. It is the only thing that I can do. It is the only thing that I ought to do. And so I must do it. And so I must embrace life this way. And actually pursue holiness, pursue the betterment of myself, pursue this adventure, and not just lay back. I must go down to the seas again, to the vagrant gypsy life, to the gull's way and the whale's way, where the wind's like a whetted knife. So I'm a pilgrim in a foreign land. All sorts of things around me that, yeah, I didn't put that there, or I didn't put that there, or I didn't make this situation. But it is my situation. It's kind of wild. It's kind of cool. Maybe it's dangerous. Maybe it's awesome. Maybe it's all of the above. I don't care. It's mine. I'm going to own it. I will traverse it. And I shall sing it. I shall sing through it. With the merry yarn that my fellow rover gives me. Because if I am going to approach life as adventure, I might as well sing through it. I might as well have joy in it, right? It's still going to be tedious and dull, and it's going to be really hard. So I'll put it into song, and lift up my heart that way. And when it's over, when the long trick, which trick in this case is basically a shift at the ship, I'll enjoy a quiet sleep and a sweet dream in the arms of Christ. Because I will have fought the good fight. I will have sailed the good voyage. I will have finished the race. And God willing, I will have kept the faith. So do you want to live a boring conformist life, or do you want an adventure? Do you want to be a normal hobbit, or do you want to be like Bilbo? I pick Bilbo.
And Frodo, and Sam. And Merry and Pippin.
And all of the great men that have gone before me. It's going to be wild. It's going to be fun. It's going to be full of laughs, especially mine. It's going to be one hell of an adventure.
So get up off your couch, get up out of your chair, and go on your own.
Yeah, it's a fitting spot to leave it, I think.
With that, I believe we will end.
Have a good one.
We will see you all next week, and we will tell you why you're probably doing Lent wrong.
Yep. Other reasons to get off the couch. Till next time.
Adieu.